The Champions League last 16 continues, the round of last 16. Jonathan Wilson is back on board as well as Mark O'Hare for this week. Jonathan, I'll start with you. Pretty mixed bag last week. We obviously had under 3 in Madrid and PSG. That was a terrific winner there, but Kylian Mbappe killed our Madrid plus a half. And Man City, another 3.5, was unfortunately dead by halftime when City just took control and destroyed them. But Jonathan, just something I wanted to kind of touch on from last week's show. We discussed the away goals, and there's this perception of Real Madrid going into the Parc de France and playing for, a 0-0 draw. I don't really think that was the way, surely. I think that got a bit overblown, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's just a constituency of people who think the change in the away goals rule is wrong, and so they're just desperate for any evidence. I mean, 80% of the goals scored last week were by the away teams. Yeah. Now, obviously, it's a ludicrously small sample size. Part of that's because of City and because of Liverpool playing away. But if you look at how Real Madrid played in the 3 away games against, certainly in 2 of the cases against much lesser opposition than PSG, they sat deep and tried to play on the break.
Yeah.
Given that, Dani Carvajal had a nightmare night with the line playing quite deep. Yeah, imagine how he'd have been destroyed by Mbappe if he'd been playing 10 yards high up the pitch. So, and I come back again and again and again. I just think people have got this totally wrong about the away goals rule. It didn't work. It was a terrible law that if you look at the 12 seasons leading up to its introduction in the European Cup in 67-8, I think it was the first season that it was used, the away team failed to score 32% of the games. In the 12 seasons after that, they failed to score in 45% of games. So actually what it did was not to incentivize the away team to attack more, but to incentivize the home team to defend more, because the consequences of conceding at home were far greater.
Yeah.
And I know people get very excited by, you have that situation late in games where one team's winning, then there's a goal, and suddenly they're losing. There's not that intermediary phase. But equally, I've seen loads of second legs killed by a team being 1-0 up from the home leg and then scoring very early in the second leg, and suddenly the other team has to score 3 and the game's as good as over. So, I was always anti the away goals law, and I just think people have read far too much into one performance from a team who I think were always likely to play quite defensively at PSG.
No, the point about Mbappe is a very salient one, and obviously you saw Carvajal when he was substituted. He looked absolutely exhausted, not only just physically but just mentally, having Mbappe coming down that left wing at him. Mark O'Hare, Liverpool, great show for you, mate. And look, we talked about it on the Weekend Football podcast last week. There were patches of that second half towards the first 10 or 15 minutes where it was just that final ball for Inter, and the Inter were harrying them, but they just ran out of that bit of steam, and it just showed Liverpool's class when they brought on those big time players. Obviously Henderson, Keita were big additions there, but Liverpool prevailed, and they look a really solid team for this competition right now.
Yeah, I think they're genuine contenders, genuine challengers to win this competition. It wasn't an easy night. I don't think it was a 2-0 win at all. Inter obviously hit the woodwork in the first half of Çalhanoğlu, and as you say, that sort of 20 minutes spell after the interval where they were on top, and then probably should have done more with their possession and territory. But as you say, Liverpool's quality off the bench and being able to use those 5 subs is a bit of a game changer, particularly against a side like Inter, who, for all their efforts and for all their talent, do not match up to the Premier League in terms of what their squad is about and the budget they have available to them. So, impressive stuff from Liverpool to get the job done and effectively end the tie almost in the first leg, because it's hard to see Inter scoring 3 goals at Anfield.
Yeah, I kind of thought even if they just conceded that 1 goal, maybe there was that hope there. But the 2, just with that firepower that Liverpool has, I can't see Inter not conceding at Anfield. All right, we're going to start with Tuesday's games today. But before I do that, if you are watching us now live on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and please feel free to leave a comment. And also, if you're listening to us in your podcast app later in the week, please leave us a preferential review if you're enjoying our content. All right, Chelsea versus Lille is where we're going to kick off first at the Bridge on Tuesday night. The current betting, as we have it at Matchbook.com, you can back Chelsea just over 1-3 at 1.34, Lille at 11.5, the draw available at 5.5. Lille are getting a 1.5 start at 1.91, and 2 3/4 of the goal line, and slightly shaded towards the under at 1.94. Mark, look, I think Chelsea, we know the challenge they've had in the last couple of weeks. They're still grinding out results, and Palace was a great indication at the weekend. But I think if people get a bit excited with Lille, don't get me wrong, this is a team that we liked in the group stage. We backed them big time against Wolfsburg later in the round. But this Lille team, 11th in Ligue 1, and that defeat a couple of weeks ago to PSG is probably more of a mirror where that Lille team is right now. Would you be in agreement on that, or where are you at?
I think they're better than the performance they put in against PSG, for sure. PSG probably produced their best Liga display of the campaign in that game. And, they have proven to be pretty awkward opponents for most teams domestically and in Europe. But ultimately, this is down to Chelsea and how good they need to be to win this match. And they have been in a bit of a funk for a while. The Palace win was only their 4th in 12 across the Premier League and Champions League since the start of December. They don't often lose many, but they've definitely lost a lot of chemistry in terms of what they do down the flanks with the injuries to James and Chilwell. Mason Mount being injured as well has kind of hampered their attack too. And Tuchel seems sort of insistent on playing Lukaku as this hold-up merchant rather than what he's able to offer, really. So I don't see Chelsea running away with things in the first leg. I do expect them to win the tie with a bit of room to spare. But they obviously put Juventus to the sword back in November. But since then, they've only scored more than twice, two times actually at home, one of which was against Chesterfield in the FA Cup, who are obviously in the 5th tier, and the other was against Leeds when Jorginho scored 2 penalties. So I don't expect them to completely sort of obliterate Lille, particularly in the first leg. And, Jocelyn Gouvernec, the Lille coach, said after the 0-0 draw with Metz on Friday night, his team will be taking a much different approach for this match. And I think that kind of hints at a defensive counter-attacking approach. So he'll be keen to keep things tight and try to utilise set pieces and transitions. And I think they have potential to do that in transitions with Jonathan David and Jonathan Bamber in particular, but I'm not sure Yilmaz is cut out for that. But their strength over the past 18 months has been organisation and defence. Obviously, the coaches have since changed, but Sven Botman holding things together alongside the experience of Jose Font, and then you've got a midfield 3, depending on who he chooses out of Andre, Xhaka and Renato Sanchez, who are able to sort of keep things tight. And they performed pretty well away from home in the group stages. They won at Sevilla, won at Wolfsburg, as you say, and gave Salzburg a very good game too. They've already held Marseille and Monaco away as well, gave a good account of themselves at the Parc des Princes away at PSG earlier in the season. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, but I do think Chelsea should, in theory, get this job done at Stamford Bridge, at least, with in a relatively low-scoring game. So the bet that stood out was Chelsea to win under 3.5 goals. It's odds against, which I think is fine. PSG were around 1.5 earlier in the season at home to Lille. They're obviously much weaker at that time when they played Lille. Chelsea are trading at 1.35. I think their price is fair, considering the strength of their squad. But just aware that missing sort of 3 key components in terms of what they do going forward, which might hamper them in their attempts to sort of put this tie to bed in the first leg.
Yeah, Jonathan, what are you making in Chelsea right now? Kind of a hard enough team to get a read on. Mark touched on it there, the Lukaku. Where do you play him? But he's obviously not been played where he was played with Inter in the last couple of seasons. What are you making of him right now? We may have just lost Jonathan for a second. May have just frozen.
Yeah, he had what, 7 touches?
Yeah.
Yes. Lukaku's clearly a big problem for them. Yeah, 7 touches against Palace, which is one of them
was the kickoff. I saw that. Piece on the Athletic. Yeah.
So that chemistry clearly isn't working. But so I think it's very easy with Chelsea to focus on that problem. Yeah, that problem's very obvious. However, the flip side of that is they are getting results, or they're not losing games because defensively they are so solid. So the group stage, particularly that game against Wolfsburg, I think we highlighted Bamber and David on the counter. I think it's very hard to counter against Chelsea because they have a back 3 and then they have a 2 midfielders sitting just in front. They've got that sort of trapezoid base, which I think is very, very hard to break down. Low scoring game. Chelsea should win it. When you see Chelsea short as 1.3 something, you sort of think, well, they're not that great. Lille, I think, are a bit better than 10th, 11th in League One looks. That's largely because they had such a bad start of the season. Is there some value in backing the away win? But I just can't really see how Lille score. I think that way of playing transition is very hard for them to play against Chelsea. And although Chelsea's form in the 2, as Mark says, in the Premier League and the Champions League, in the 2 Premier competitions, is not great. They have actually won the last 5 because of those 2 wins in the Club World Cup, because of that win against Plymouth in the 4th round of the FA Cup. So maybe there's a little bit of confidence returning there. So yeah, I'm more than happy back in Chelsea to win in a low-scoring game.
Yeah, as Mark suggested, our Chelsea and be paired with on the 3.5 goals is currently 2.12, just over 11 to 10 at matchbook.com. All right, we move on to the other game on Tuesday night. From the eastern coast of Spain, Villarreal against Juventus. Current betting as we have it at matchbook.com. The money has come for Villarreal in the last couple of days. They're currently 2.58. Juventus at 3.2. The draw available at 3.2 as well. Juventus getting quarter of a goal start at 1.8, and it's a low enough goal line at 2.25, and it's slightly shaded towards the under, which is obviously they're predicting a low enough scoring game. There in Villarreal, 1.9 is the under. Jonathan, of Juventus, obviously, look, we touched on pre-recording there. There are some doubts, like Cellini and Bonucci didn't play that 1-1 draw against Torino. They've also got a couple of injuries there elsewhere. I think, obviously, Dybala, look, for the what feels like the 14th time in the last 2 years he's injured. What are you making of Juventus in this one? Again, they're a hard team to get a read on too, because they're not losing games, but they're not exactly inspiring you either with their results.
Yeah, I mean, I found this game really difficult, and so I was sort of quite happy backing Juve because they seemed slightly long, but then you look at that list of injuries, and at the back it's not just Bonucci and Chiellini, Rugani being out as well. So if they end up playing De Ligt and Alessandro, yeah, that causes me concerns. Then again, I think we are slowly seeing Allegri beginning to get his system in place. They're unbeaten in 14 in the league. They're only letting in 7 goals in those 14, and 3 of those came in that great game against Roma. So they have been, although personnel are changing, yeah, the shape I think is better than it has been for a while. So I think they are starting to look more like an Allegri team again. Dybala, I almost hate myself for saying this, but I kind of think they might be better without Dybala. He's frustrated me. He's got so much talent. He's such a lovely player to watch. He's from that great Argentinian tradition of number 10, but he's just too inconsistent. And I sort of think
they must be used to it at this stage, though, Jonathan.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing. He never gets a consistent one on the side because of his injuries.
Yeah.
So again, I think in terms of a structure, not having him is not a disaster. Yeah. Allegri obviously is very good. Emery is very good in one-off games in Europe at negating the opposition. He's only come up against Allegri once before. So I think 2 managers who are very good in one-off games at shutting the game down. And that was when Sevilla played as Juve back in 15-16. And that was 1-0 to Villarreal at home, 2-0 to Juve in Turin. So that doesn't give you a big clue either. So I end it largely because I just think Juve, against a team who's only 6th in Spain, they have so much more experience at that level. Just sort of the stature of the club, I think, does give them a self-confidence that maybe Villarreal don't have. I end up sort of them mildly favouring them, plus a half. It's slightly better than evens, but if Mark wants to twist my arm and say that he'll kick my head in if I don't back Villarreal, I'll back them very quickly.
Yeah, that was probably the least convincing case ever. But in fairness, you admit that. That's why not going to be the bet there. I think the main.
And it is the injury, and then also Chiesa being out, Bernardeschi being out.
Yeah, that's fair.
But also Villarreal without Coquelin, without Moreno, that they're not full strength either. So, but yeah, I'm not convinced at all, but mildly favouring Juve.
Yeah, and I think the line you quoted there, Juventus draw no bet. If you do want to get them on size 2.2, you can get a slightly better handicap as well in the age handicap. Mark, what do you make of this one? Obviously, look, with Villarreal, I was impressed by the performance a couple of weeks ago where they held Madrid at home. That seemed like a good solid performance. This game doesn't scream of goals either, though, Mark, does it? This could be a very touchy affair.
Yeah, low goal expectancy. The draw then becomes a big runner, and I think the draw is a big runner in this, particularly if you listen to sort of Jonathan and then myself try and sort of side of either team. And I have to admit, I had Juventus plus a quarter down as my bet, but since revised that to Villarreal plus 0, the draw no bet effectively because of those injuries. And I think Juventus, probably 10 days ago, I was looking at the Champions League outrights and thought Juve are too big. I thought they could be a potential back-to-lay opportunity here. The signing of Vlahovic really does excite me. Typical sort of Juventus centre forward, almost the finishing touches to a team which is, as Jonathan said, is moving in the right direction, getting Allegri's plan in place really from a defensive standpoint. But they were missing that kind of clinical edge. But yeah, injuries. At the moment, Bonucci is probably out. And if he does play or if he is available, then I will probably go in on Juventus plus a quarter. But right now, we're led to believe he's going to be rested. So not going to be rushing him back. But yeah, you're missing a load of centre-halves and you're missing basically your two chief creators in Chiesa and Dybala, which is a worry. They do get Danilo back, but still that defence is quite concerning in the way in which they performed against Torino in the derby. Again, just a couple of alarm bells ringing, really. And yeah, I know Villarreal are missing Moreno, which is a big miss, but they were terrific when winning away at Betis. Held Real Madrid pretty well recently at the Ceramica, won convincingly at Granada. Danjuma's fit and playing really well. Lo Celso's made an immediate impact since his signing as well. So I think they've got the pace to hurt Juventus. And I just think at the Ceramica, they can be awkward opponents. And if you look at the prices as well, they were around 2.75 at home to Real Madrid, 2.55 at home to Man United, and 2.5 at home to Atalanta on match day 1. When you consider, they took 4 points off Atalanta and Juventus aren't at their best in terms of personnel, I thought potentially the market is giving Juve slightly more than they possibly deserve right now, considering the players that are likely to be missing. So let's not forget, Villarreal were the better team home and away against Man United. And I know they didn't get the results in that match, but they did against Atalanta. So if they can perform and avoid defeat against Atalanta, then why can't they do it at home to Juve, considering those absentees? But, we're recording early on Monday morning. By the time sort of Tuesday morning, we might know more about the team news and Bonucci might be sort of included. So that would be a bit of a tipping point. But at the moment, that centre-half partnership is a concern, as is their lack of creativity without Chiesa and Dybala.
And we can only go on what we have. And as you said, we're recording on Monday morning. And this, to me, gentlemen, seems like the ultimate no-bet game. So we shall move on. And this just isn't one we want to get involved with. We may place a bet on Tuesday, but that's not going to be much help to anybody on Monday morning. All right. We move to Wednesday night and we move to Madrid, to the Wanda, as Atletico take on Manchester United. You can back the home team here, 2.5. United big price here, 3.2. The draw available, 3.25. Manchester United getting a quarter of a goal start on the main Asian handicap line at 1.83. And a middling kind of goal line, 2.25, and a slight shade towards the under. And Mark, just on those goal lines, we've covered Atletico's games obviously very much in the past, and generally speaking, their home games go off at about the 2 mark. But this Atletico team, for anyone who isn't aware, they're, in terms of goals conceded, they're in the bottom half of La Liga. It's very much a change kind of outfit for Simeone's side this year. And you sense the United can get on the score sheet here as well.
Yeah, I do. It's not by want or design, but they've not looked themselves all season defensively. Atletico Madrid, that is, and they're 15 points off the top. Got their worst ever defensive numbers in the Simeone era at this stage, not just in goals conceded, but all the underlying metrics as well. Lost at home to rock bottom Levante last midweek, which is a concern. And they're playing a United team who just seem to be starting making moves in the right direction as well. So they were much improved winning away at Osasuna. Atletico were at the weekend, but El Sadar, normally one of the hardest places to go to, hasn't been the fortress it once was this season at least. And I think from Simeone's perspective, he's got key players on the score sheet, Suarez, João Felix, Correa, which is quite timely really because João Felix and Suarez haven't been at their best, but also Marcos Llorente was quite influential as well in midfield. He's had to sort of fill in at right back quite a lot this season. He's at his best in midfield, and that's a big bonus because Carrasco is suspended for this, and he's been probably their creative player so far this season. Lamar's a doubt as well, but Griezmann's back as well. So I think, sort of balance it all out. Atleti are still going quite well going forward, but defensively, still a few concerns where Savic and Jimenez played together. They haven't played together often enough this year, and they're by far and away their best centre-half combination. So, yeah, ordinarily you'd look to oppose goals in Atletico games, particularly first leg knockout tie in Europe, when they perceive themselves to be the underdogs, even if the market doesn't agree. But just enough question marks over how they're performing, particularly defensively, and particularly Jan Oblak, actually, between the sticks, who's had a massive downturn this season as well. Just makes me believe that United will get on the score sheet here, and potentially there's an angle to get United on side. But I'll take goals instead. United have lost once in 18 in 90 minutes. They failed to score once in that sample as well. We know about their away record domestically, but in Europe it's not been too bad either. They've scored in 24 of the last 27 games across all comps. And that Atletico defence, 8 clean sheets in 31 La Liga and Champions League ties. They've conceded twice or more in 8 of the last 12. Just 1 clean sheet in the group phase, managed only 2 clean sheets in the last 12 La Liga matches, and they conceded multiple goals in 6 of 8 against the top 7 domestically as well. So, I think United definitely can get on the score sheet, but you don't want to write Atleti completely off either. They absolutely stunk the place out against Porto and Milan here, but when the game came against Liverpool, they were really up for it. Big European night, and they've got that edge about them. Gave Liverpool a decent game despite losing. So, I think they can score as well. Both teams have scorers copped in 12 of United, 16 away, including 6 of the last 7. Also landed in 5 of their 6 group games as well. So, I think United score, but also I think Atleti at home just have that sneaky feeling that they'll raise themselves and put a bit of a decent show on for this. But again, I think the draw is a big runner as well, and it's no surprise really that the 1-1 correct score is the favourite in that market. So something similar I wouldn't be too surprised about.
Yeah, Jonathan, Mar touching there in terms of João Felix and Luis Suarez. They have been in and out, and obviously Felix had a good game at the weekend. They got on the score sheet. But if there's any kind of game for that tandem to get going, it is against probably the likes of Maguire and Lindelof at the United back. There's got to be the potential of goals there. And you're surprised enough about the low goal line as well, Jonathan.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because I don't trust either side defensively. I think Oblak's loss of form is a huge thing. And you never quite know which is chicken, which is egg there. Has the defence lost confidence in Oblak, or has Oblak lost confidence in the defence? But either way, it's not working out. And United are a team who, even when they're playing well, you've seen it again and again. You had that string of 3-1-1s in a row, before the Brighton game, where they're looking great. They take the lead, and then their heads go, and they suddenly find themselves under pressure and concede. So 1-1 sort of feels like the default United score at the moment. Now, maybe those last 2 games, particularly the way they, having lost the lead against Leeds and then come back in a pretty difficult environment, maybe that does suggest there's a little bit of the old character starting to re-emerge. But you wouldn't fancy Maguire against players who can run at him, and you assume that the way Atletico players, they'll sit off. I don't trust United's midfield to be able to organise themselves to stop counters. So I think there's every chance Atletico can score, but as Mark says, I don't trust Atletico to keep United out. And the fact they scored 4 on Sunday, they look much more alert against Brighton as well. I think getting both teams to score at 1.93. That seems very good value to me.
Yeah, and it's been nibbled. You guys looked at it early Monday morning, it's 1.95. It's been nibbled into 1.3 as the goal line maybe gets back to maybe about a 2.5 the main goal line. All right, both teams score as a selection there from the Wanda, so at 1.93. All right, last game we're going to cover this week. The other game on Wednesday night is from Lisbon, Benfica against Ajax. The current betting as we have it at matchbook.com. You can back Benfica here 4.4. Ajax at 1.87, the draw available at 3.95. Benfica getting a 3/4 of goal start on the main Asian handicap line at 1.86, and the goal line is just slightly disappeared off my screen right now, and I think it was about 2.75. Jonathan, just wanted to talk about Ajax for a second, because obviously look, they had the 100% record from the group stages, but is there a danger we look back and we look at what City did to Sporting, and we obviously seen the Dortmund defence being shredded on multiple occasions, even by Rangers during the week, to say, is there a possibility they might be not as good as people think they are, or where are we thinking?
There is that possibility, but they were phenomenal in the group stage. If a team wins 6 out of 6 in the group stage, playing as well as they did, you can't knock them. It is true that Sporting, perhaps we overrated how good they were defensively at home, and that we've seen them exposed by good sides. My feeling on this game is basically I don't feel like I have a proper handle on Ajax, just because you can't judge teams very well in the Eredivisie. So I know they've won 10 in a row, which is obviously they can't do any more than that. I know they played brilliantly in the group stage. I know Sebastian Haller is having the season of his life, and I know Benfica having a bit of a wobble. They're third in Portugal. They've won 4 of the last 11 in all competitions. So, I mean, this all stats say Ajax. However, Benfica away against Bayern, I thought were incredibly impressive. I know they got beaten 5-2. I know to an extent they were outplayed, particularly late on in the second half. But there were moments in that game where I sort of thought, yeah, they are better than the scoreline suggests. And I think we really saw that in the home game against Barcelona, how good they were. I thought the way they shut Barcelona down away from home was really impressive as well. I know that's a Barcelona who were particularly low ebb. So I just think there's a bit of value. When a team, a Benfica stature is over 4 at home, to be able to back them plus a half at around about evens, I think it's worth taking a punt against a team in Ajax where I just have doubts, not through any fault of their own, but just because the Eredivisie is not really a test for them.
Yeah, you can back Benfica, as Jonathan mentioned, plus a half goal, which keeps the draw on side, and that's currently 2.12. Mark, this has been a tricky enough one for you, I think, to decipher, but where are you leaning in this one?
Yeah, I mean, my first impression was to back goals, but the goal line set pretty high already. The goal expectancy for the game is around 2.9, and both teams scoring is below 1.7, which you don't really want to be going in on those kind of prices in the first leg of a knockout tie. But it's justified, I think. Only Bayern scored more than Ajax in the group stage. Ajax, in terms of underlying numbers, were really, really impressive. They have been freewheeling across most of the season, but Benfica, I don't really want to oppose. I don't really want to be backing Ajax odds on prices, but I look at Benfica, and the more and more I've watched them recently, they just seem to have imploded mid-season and defensively look all at sea, and that really concerns me, particularly that sort of centre-half partnership against the sort of the skill and quality of that Ajax forward line. That does concern me a lot. And you look at their results and performances, particularly in the matches that matter, not just domestically, but across Europe, obviously. We know about what they did in the Champions League, but beaten 3-1 at home by Sporting, beaten 3-0 and 3-1 at Porto in the League and Cup, then beaten 2-1 at home by Sporting in the Cup. They've only kept 2 clean sheets in the last 12 across all competitions. And then some of the matches which you expect Benfica to win in their sleep, beaten by Gil Vicente, held by Boa Vista at the weekend, held by Moreirense as well. These just aren't results and performances you associate with a club like Benfica. And I think the best form line is obviously their results and efforts against the big 2 in Portugal. And then seeing what Ajax did to Sporting in the group stage as well, where Sporting were probably a bit too gung-ho on match day 1 and got absolutely outgunned. But Ajax went off at 2.07 on match day 1 in that match. So the market was already well over sort of expecting Ajax to win that match quite comfortably. And the way in which they did so was really quite surprising. So to see them now at 1.86 compared to that sort of 2.07 and believing that Sporting are a bit better, or not just a bit better, but quite significantly better than Benfica right now, I think fair enough. And look, this Ajax team went off at favourites away at Dortmund at 2.35. So I'd still rate them, both Dortmund and Sporting, higher than Benfica as well. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really back in them at 1.87, but I just think if you add over 1.5 goals into the equation, if you do think it's going to be a goal-heavy game, which I think it might be, you're effectively just ruling out the 1-0 away win, and you're getting Ajax at 2.2 or around there. And if you want to be really brave, I think Ajax to win and both teams to score at 3.6 is understandable, really. But I just think that front 4 against that Benfica sort of centre-half partnership is where the edge is at, and I think Ajax score a couple of goals in this match.
All right, bit of a difference of opinion there, but let's do a quick recap on where there wasn't a difference in opinion. There is a consensus on Chelsea to win under 3.5 goals at 2.12, and we also like Atletico against Manchester United, both teams to score at 1.93. Full recap of those bets will be found at insights.matchbook.com from Monday afternoon onwards, and we'll give you the guys' leans in the other games, but they are the official plays for this week. If you haven't got a Matchbook account, you do want to sign up today. Use the bonus code INSIGHTSRF to avail of a £20 money back of cash if your first bet loses. So it's a £20 welcome offer. Use the bonus code INSIGHTSRF. All right, Mark O'Hare, your best bet this week. We covered in game 1, Chelsea under 3.5. Very quickly, sir, what's the bet? 2.12.
Yeah, Chelsea to win and under 3.5 goals. Tricky coupon, but I think Chelsea are probably the most reliable home favourites going into this midweek. Obviously, normally quite controlled, quite defensively sound and savvy, but going forward, I just think they lose a lot with those wing-back injuries and Lukaku not being played to his full potential either. And I think Lille will go there with a set-up to try and stay in the tie for the second leg.
Yeah, like that. Obviously, we want to be back in Chelsea 1.34. Bit too short for our taste. Jonathan, you expect goals in Madrid?
Yeah, and basically it's just two teams I don't fully trust. So, I wouldn't fancy either of them to keep a clean sheet. I think they're both looking, dangerous going forward. United, I think, particularly over the last week or so, I think that's improved. So, yeah, quite happy to back both teams to score here.
All right, great stuff. We're going to enhance that double. Chelsea to win it on the 3.5 and BTTS and Atletico versus Manchester United's 4.1. Like I said in the weekend football pod last week, if you see that price better elsewhere, be it on a sports book or an exchange, you can ping me on Twitter or you can ping the Team Matchbook account as well, and we will further enhance that for you. But thanks to Jonathan. My thanks to Mark. We'll take a couple of weeks off, guys, before we get into the second legs. Best luck with your bets this week, guys. Like the guy said, a very tricky coupon, but hopefully we found a bit of value there with the lads' best bets. Goodbye for now.